Women in Data Kolkata Chapter July Symposium. Thanks to all of you for making time to join this event today. I am Sudeshna, Chapter Lead for Women in Data Kolkata. Skills that last the decade. This is the theme for all our symposiums for women in data across the globe for this month. Just a minute. In today's session, after the introductions, we have two speakers with us to address the theme, and following that we will have 15 minutes of Q&A, and you can type your questions in the chat window from now, and we will address the questions at the end of the session. Nothing can be more relevant in today's context to understand how we can enhance our skills to drive growth and transformation while we are coping up and embracing the ever-changing environmental parameters around us. And of course, how technological skills can help us to enable accelerated business outcomes. Women in Data is a non-profit organization with a mission to increase diversity in data careers. We provide awareness, education, and advancement to women in the tech industry, specifically in analytics, data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. We have grown to around 10,500 members across the globe, across 25 chapters in 6 different countries. The Kolkata chapter was founded in the month of March in this year. And incidentally, it is the first India chapter and the only India chapter, in fact, till now. So we have plans for expanding across other locations very soon. This is our first symposium since we founded the chapter. And this is with the sponsorship of Analytics and Insights Unit of Tata Consultancy Services. Thanks to Mr. Dinanath Kolkar, Global Head of Analytics and Insight, for his help and continuous guidance on this. And he has also been a continuous encouragement even for me to take up the chapter lead role, set up the first India chapter for women in data, and work for data and diversity. Let me introduce you to Sheila. Sheila is the Diversity and Inclusion Head of Analytics and Insights, and she has been instrumental in planning and organizing this session along with me. Sheila, over to you to introduce the team.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Sudeshna, and a very good day to all. We at TCS believe that organizations that observe workplace diversity is gaining currency in leadership team and are more likely to develop a more cohesive, collaborative, and creative work environment as a means to accelerate innovation and achieve competitive business advantage. Tata Consultancy Services Analytics and Insight Unit has strengthened its focus on this by partnering with Women in, and are proud of the fact that Sudeshna TCS is the first chapter leader in India, Kolkata. As a part of the diversity focus at TCS, our charter is to be inclusive as a culture, to aid professional development of all, provide an enabling environment, and to engage through policies, practices, and initiatives. Women in Data, the Tata Consultancy Services Analytics and Insights Unit, intends to showcase the thought leadership of women in TCS, encourage and enable women to advance and realize their potential, to aspire and reach beyond the set boundaries. Our goal is to develop women leaders and have a TCS leader as chapter head at every state in India. Wishing Sudhina success and more glory ahead. Our speakers today are senior women leaders and long-standing TCSers. Our first speaker today is Savita Kulkarni. Savita is the strategy and incubation head and head of computer vision at TCS Analytics and Insights practice. Savita comes with 22 plus years of experience across various data and analytics projects. As practice head, she's passionate about driving data and analytics incubation and strategy, and looks at enabling industry verticals with contextual business solutions. Our second speaker is Lakshmi Subramaniam. She heads the Global Business Analytics Division of for Energy and Resources and High Tech Cluster of TCS Analytics and Insights Unit. With over 23 years of industry experience, she comes with deep domain and functional expertise. Her ability to partner with academia and industry to create various growth and transformation stories is noteworthy. So that's a brief about the speakers, and I would now hand over to Savita Kulkarni to start the session.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, Savita.
Okay, thank you so much, Sheila, for the introduction. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm so happy to be with everyone. Hello, everyone. So happy to be part of this session, and actually the topic itself is so exciting, right? So skills to last a decade. We are in times, such exciting times, where revolutionary, in fact, the way there is democratization of everything, whether it is availability of data sets, whether it is algorithms, learning platforms. You look at citizens data, or citizen scientists, even hackathons, you name it. So it's really opening up, right? And in this age, we are in a we have got a golden opportunity to really learn and grow and make the most of what is available now, and really progress in our careers as well. So I would like to start by giving some background on the trends in data and analytics, and from two different perspectives. So could you please go to the next slide, Sudeshna? Yeah, thanks so much. So this is just a representative slide. So this is one perspective of the data trends. So this is an era of data abundance. We see huge amount of data getting. So this slide just shows about the amount of data that is generated every minute, and it's not just the sheer volumes, right? It's also the variety. If you look at the text, the images, the videos, the logs, the streaming data, you look at the dark data that is getting generated from sensors, the humongous amount of data that is getting generated. Now, can this data be useful? Can we really leverage all this data, make it into information? Can enterprises really gain knowledge out of this data? It all depends on can plumb this data, how you can really heavy lift it, and then process and analyze it. So that's how you will be able to leverage and use this data effectively. The second perspective, can you go to the next slide, please, Sudeshna? So this is the second perspective, right, which is where we're looking at how enterprises are reacting to this data. It's very interesting slide. You will be able to understand that traditionally, when we look at data and analytics space, close to 45 to 60% of the investment in time, effort, money goes into getting all the data together, collating, consolidating, analyzing, processing. So all the 6, 7 pillars of data management, whether it is master data management, metadata management, governance, privacy, security, the architecture and modeling. So most effort and investment went into building this foundation, and about 15 to 35% went into actually generating insights out of it, and hardly 5% went into automation, right? So that was yesterday. And what we are seeing today, and definitely what we'll see in the future, is an inversal of this pyramid. So what the enterprises have now already got a foundation. They have got, they're going to continue to invest in it incrementally to improve, to handle new forms of data, new ways of managing this data. So that is where the investment will go. And then there will be continued investment on insights as well. So on understanding how the businesses are performing. So that will continue as is. However, 60 to 75% of the investments will now go into automation of decision making, right? So that is how the industry is reacting. Okay, so we are looking at complete reversal, right? So now organizations are moving towards automation of decision making. And this is also due to what we saw in the first slide, the explosion of data and the need to really leverage that data for businesses. Second is also because of the technology enablers like big data, like IoT, like cloud, like mobility. and definitely AI, right? Artificial intelligence is making these things possible, and that is why these technology enablers are enabling the shifting of investments as well. So can you go to the next slide, please? So how this AI is actually shaping up the decision making? How is the future of decision making happening actually? So can you please? Yeah, thanks so much. So if you see this slide, it just gives you a paradigm shift in decision making itself. So you have the foundation layer, you still have all the structured, semi-structured, unstructured data, all coming in together, and we are having the entire information management pillar on top of it to manage the entire life cycle of data, right? So that is still there. And on that solid data foundation, you have clear two paths of decision making. One is what we call as machine-centric decision making. All such decisions which are tactical or repetitive processes, they can all go through a machine-centric decision making. And with that, it could evolve through statistical analysis first, moving on to machine learning, deep learning, then you move on to finally the artificial general intelligence. That is the artificial intelligence area in the machine-centric decision making. The other part is where you want humans only to take decisions, right? And that is the human centric decision making. There, when humans are the final decision makers, what is it that we can do? We can actually make life easier for humans in understanding this data, visualizing this data, interpreting this data. So for that, you will make them enabled with self-service BI. You can start with self-service BI, then you give them assistance or a collaborative platforms where it becomes interactive analytics. And then you say that, okay, you don't need to type, it's a voice enabled bot. So the person can talk to the system and get all the responses. After that, it becomes, okay, no more talking. You can just have gestures, and you can have augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality enabled systems, which again make it so much easier for humans to interact with the systems and the data that is there, right? And finally, you don't have to do gestures also. You think about it and the data should be available to you the way you want it. That is brain computer interface. That is the final level. So all this pillar, what you see as human centric decision making, is coming under the umbrella of immersive analytics, which is IA. So IA and AI are two parts of decision making, and both are actually artificial intelligence disciplines only. So if you look at both these pillars, they still use AI techniques and collectively help you in two different forms of decision making. So with this, what we have seen is AI has truly come in, and in all our data and analytics journeys, AI is definitely playing a big role, right? So how is it playing that kind of role? Let's see that in the next slide. Sudeshna, can you show the next slide, please? Yeah, thanks. So this slide kind of shows you how we are using, how we are leveraging AI components. So what you see in that circle, IA and AI, these are the core technology components. These are the core AI components, which actually are part of the 6 out of 8 AI disciplines, right? So there are 9 AI disciplines, 8 are significantly mature. What you see here in this circle are reasoning, natural language processing, perception, learning, these knowledge representation. These are the areas which are very much coming into industry already, significantly mature. And if you have these core components, now these core technology components can be homegrown assets. Organizations can build these assets, or there are pre-trained models, pre-trained libraries which are already available in the open source, or they can be cognitive services provided by cloud platforms, or they can be niche vendors who are providing these kind of technology capabilities. But can these technology capabilities really give you a direct business solution? No, they cannot. You have to teach them or stitch them with some contextual knowledge, right? And that comes at what you see at the bottom, the base ontologies, the templates, the processes that are relevant for that industry, and a very relevant UI. When you stitch these two together, then you are very specific industry offerings. Like for in banking, you can have fraud analytics, communication surveillance, or you can have in pharma industry, you can have integrated patient safety, or in retail and all, you can have next best action, workforce safety. These are different forms of industry solutions that can very quickly be built if you have the technology components and you are able to stitch them with these ontologies, templates, and process models, right? And because you are able to stitch them very fast and create these, at least the first MVP can be ready in 3, 4, 5 weeks. They are called as born agile solutions. So when you have this kind of capability built around you with AI, then you are actually accelerating the way you are going to market, the way you are able to address customers' problems. And that is why it actually leverages AI to deliver really fast capabilities to your customers. Now, once these capabilities are built, how you deploy it to customers can be in various ways. It can be completely on a public cloud, it can be in premise, it can be as platform as a service, or it can be as business process as a service. So these are various ways in which you can deploy the AI solutions by stitching them with context, right? Now, if we have seen all this, so we are sure that we are having these AI components. Is it that as and when there are new AI components, you just keep building? Is there a method to all the way you want to progress in AI as well? So TCS has got a vision on AI as well. So Sudeshna, can you please go to the next slide? Yeah. So TCS derives its AI vision, the TCS artificial intelligence vision. It is derived from metaphysical philosophies, right? It is based on purposiveness, consciousness, intentionality. So these are the foundational aspects of intelligence as a whole. It's about artificial intelligence. It's about in the universe how intelligence exists. It can be in purposiveness, consciousness, and intentionality, and these directly map to artificial intelligence domain as commonly called as artificial narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, and artificial super intelligence. So these are mapping to purposiveness, consciousness, and intentionality. To make it more relatable and understandable, I'll just show you in many examples and show you in the next slide how we are relating to all these levels of intelligence basically. So Sudeshna, can you please go to the next slide? Thanks so much. Yeah. So we talked about three levels of intelligence. So all living beings in every single cell is is actually meant to do a particular purpose. It is there for a purpose, right? And what it does over time, it evolves its intelligence to actually do that task in a most excellent way, right? It tries to achieve a level of intelligence where it can do whatever task, whatever was its purpose, with the best possible results and most optimal way. So it keeps on evolving to a level where it becomes a prodigy. So the level of excellence is that of a prodigy. So, but it is for a single task. That living being, that cell was meant to do a certain task and it has reached that level of excellence. Can you ask it to do something else? No, it's not intelligent enough, nor is it aspiring to be that intelligent that it wants to do multiple tasks and think and do. It says, I'm meant for this purpose, I'll only do this task to the best level possible, right? So that is a single task excellence, and if that is what is called as purposiveness. And if you look at how Howard Gardner has actually looked at intelligence, there are 8 different types of intelligence which you will see on this slide, and it's observed that all living beings actually dominate in only one of these intelligences. So plants have an intelligence on how to search for sunlight, but they can't really move. And similarly, all beings have a specific kind of intelligence and not necessarily a. Now, if you look at artificial intelligence, where does this map to? It maps to a narrow intelligence. It's artificial narrow intelligence specific. This is about purposiveness, and artificial narrow intelligence is also about being exceptionally intelligent in doing one task. And now if you see in the world today, we have huge amount of momentum that is gathering on ANI, on artificial narrow intelligence. We have this amazing chess playing AI systems which do so amazing at beating anyone in the world on chess, but if you ask them to do autonomous driving, they will not be able to do. those AI systems which can do autonomous driving, you ask them to do weather predictions, they can't do that. What can do weather predictions, they can't do ATM testing. So you realize that humans have actually handcrafted these AI systems with only contextual understanding on one task only. So they are very good at that. So what we are seeing is ANI acts like an assistant to a human, right? So it makes your life so much more efficient, productive, elevate your role actually, but it just does one thing, that is ANI. Next level is, and in ANI, I can give you a lot of examples. And in fact, I'll tell you about what TCS is doing in ANI as well. So ANI in traditional ways, if you look at AI and how we have implemented. So if you look at statistical analysis to machine learning to deep learning, the techniques that we have used, they're all very narrow, very specific to a purpose, right? And if you look at traditionally, these are the techniques that we have used for forecasting, planning, control. Those are some of the things. Today we are doing natural language processing, NLG, computer vision, audio analytics, knowledge representation. All these are so what we are doing today in AI. And if you look at midterm roadmap of ANI or narrow intelligence, then we are looking at computational creativity. That means computers can do creative writing, they can come up with fine arts, they can do social intelligence. This is all again a midterm roadmap of ANI itself. And if you, in TCS, we do ANI through programs which we define under, let's say, intelligent process automation. This is one category of programs. In that, we can do automated claims processing, automated invoice processing. In pharma area, we do patient safety case processing. So these are different examples of process automation. And for that also, we use many learning techniques as well. So these are some of the AI techniques and AI disciplines which we will bring into use to reach that level of excellence. Then the second level is human engagement amplification. What is human engagement amplification? It directly maps to immersive analytics. So with augmented reality, virtual reality kind of applications, we are really changing the way education has been, education is being delivered to the end consumers. The way transport, travel, hospitality, the way we are able to address these. These are all human engagement amplifications. We are able to do social experiments with the nudge theory, nudge behavior, these kind of techniques, right? So that is human engagement amplification. Third is digital reimagination itself. A manufacturing organization trying to get into the software industry. So that is one type of digital reimagination. Second would be that a B2B customer is now getting into a B2C area. So that is a different type of reimagination. Third is workforce reimagination, where you bring an AI system which is going to monitor all your crowdsourcing initiatives. So everything on labeling data, doing all the metadata labeling, everything is done by AI. It only governs all this task. So that is workforce reimagination for you. So these are reimagination stories. Then very interestingly, we have a fourth aspect, which is called as data cultivation. What is data cultivation? See, we always say that AI needs a good data. Without good data, you really can't do good AI, right? But converse is also true, that you can use AI to create good data, right? So even now we are doing that. We label images, we label videos, we actually create a semantic layer to understand these images and videos and different forms of data. So this creation of semantic layer on structured and unstructured information, this itself is helping so much of knowledge discovery, and that is data cultivation. So you are able to identify those unknown variables, unknown parameters which are hidden in this dark data, which really change the way you can analyze and strategize based on actually this data driven decision making, right? So that those are the aspects that come into the data cultivation part. So this is how TCS is also looking, and all these stories that I've told you are still artificial narrow intelligence only, right? So that's what I'm speaking about. The next level is artificial general intelligence. The second level is artificial general intelligence. So here, the AI system has now learned and mastered doing individual tasks exceptionally well. On top of it, it has learned to do all these simultaneously. So these individual prodigies are now doing all the activities simultaneously, and it is able to infer or understand the outcome of these multitude of tasks and give you a strategic plan for future, right? So it's actually becoming aware, it has become conscious, it has become accountable for that function. It's no more an assistant, it's your partner. So if you just map it to finance, okay, you call finance AGI. Now I'll just give you an example. In finance AGI, uh, it will still have a lot of ANI, right? So it will have a component which is doing scanning of invoices. There is another component which is doing checking of the quality of data coming in. There is another which is actually highlighting maverick spends, major expenses, risks, some hedging, all that it is already identifying. These are the individual prodigies which are working. But over and above that, what it is doing is, by looking at all these parameters, it's also able to decide how cash flows should be planned. It is intelligently able to understand cash flows. It's able to simulate future cash flows. It's able to bring finer controls into budgeting, into investments, into even risks. Is the finance data getting complete confidential data has a risk of getting, you know, what do you call as, yeah. So is that data getting, in having a risk of getting spread out? Can I just take a decision and actually keep that data confidential? So it actually does take that decisions. And so AGI systems are independent systems. They have a mind of their own. They want to control. So they are no more the assistants who will listen to what you have to say. They'll say, look, I have equal stake in finance. Let me tell you what is right for this company, and this is how it should be done. So that is a AGI. So it has a consciousness to it. And the next one is ASI, artificial super intelligence. The utmost, the ultimate level of intelligence that any being is when uh, it understands metaphysics. It reaches absoluteness. In Indian's philosophy, it is called Advaita, right? It actually is absolute. It becomes one. It says, I am everything. It never distinguishes you are the enterprise and I am AI. It says, I am the enterprise and I am AI. I decide. It reaches that level where it says, if I want it to happen, I'll make it. This is the ASI level where it says that if the things are, if anything has to exist, it is because I intend it to exist, right? It is supreme power. That is what ASI means. So it also says, I am no more interested in AGI. I am not interested in consciousness. I'm not interested in duality anymore. I'm absolute. Okay. But in the business world or in enterprises, their founding principle is duality, right? We have an enterprise, we are employees, we are always dual. So it's the founding principle of all organizations. So applying ASI to a business world like ours is still far-fetched, and so it remains theoretical. So ASI is still a far-fetched vision, whereas ANI and moving on to AGI is surely a dream of a decade or a vision of a decade, right? And so this is the AI journey, AI moving from being an assistant of yours to being a partner of yours to eventually being a guru of all that happens, to control, to actually help in transformation, to go towards reimagination, and to work for uplifting the business functions, then towards a social cause and towards the well-being of everything in the universe. So that is the AI vision. That is TCS's AI vision as well. Now, if you map it to what is our role in this AI journey? So, Sudeshna, can you please show the next slide? Yeah. So if you look at ANI, AGI, and ASI, and what is our role in this entire journey, before automation, we used to enter all this data into our databases, into our systems, into our user interface. So we were data entry operators, so to say. But with automation, all these tasks are being done by machines. So we have now become quality reviewers. We are checking whether the machine is actually extracting data the way we want it to, whether it is behaving the way we want it to. So that is the quality reviewer part. Next, there's a new role that is getting introduced, which is called as a learning champion. So we are actually teaching AI how it should behave. So we are teaching AI on how it should be excellent individual tasks, and hence the crucial roles that are important, those that are emerging, are those of data scientists and AI engineers. What are AI engineers? They are people who should know what this data is, and they should also have amazing expertise in their domain. So linguists, neuroscientists, all these are specific examples of AI engineers who are transforming and teaching AI to do what they could do. They used to take a lot of time to do at that level, right? So that is the AI engineers level. So there are many more roles like that. We have roles called as business domain, algorithmic business domain experts, algorithmic business trailblazers. So these are very wondrous names, but these are the new roles that are coming in. And the cultural shift that is happening because of ANI, traditionally humans used to only interact with humans. Now they'll have to start interacting with AI as well, to teach it, to hear what it has to say, and to correct it and things like that. So that is ANI and our role in ANI. Next, the AGI level, right? We already understood that by the time the system has reached the AGI level, it has already become self-sufficient, competent, excellent in doing so many tasks. In fact, it thinks that it's so independent, it can do everything you want it to do. What we used to put in the path of human-centric decision making, many of those is now this AGI says, I can do all of that. So just as when we are given independence to do things, we are still governed by our ethics, our values, our religious disciplines. So we always take so many thoughts into picture before taking a decision. To an AGI, we have to bring that through an AI governance. We have to teach it ethics, we have to teach it values, and we have to bring that governance. So the new roles that come are that of data ethicist, of ethics counselor, of guardian. So these are the AGI roles that will come into picture. And when you reach ASI, right, you are no more the teacher. So the machine becomes your teacher. Probably it takes you to nirvana also much faster than so many births that we all have to possibly reach a moksha stage. Maybe when ASI happens, it will really teach you metaphysics so much faster. So the human role till it reaches AGI is that of a sacred teacher to an AI system. And till now, we are only focusing on AGI. So let's not worry about ASI now. And if you go down, so this is all vision and our roles mapping to that vision. What is TCS doing today in all these role progressions in data and analytics? So Deshna, can you please go to the next slide? Yeah. So in all the aspects of data and analytics, whether it is in data engineering operations or data operations or analytics and AI streams, so we do have a junior developer, senior developer, designer, architect, and then a solution architect. And if it's a analyst, it's an analyst, functional analyst, and then finally a business solution advisor. If you see this progression, you will realize that however whichever way you go, okay, eventually you have to have technology as well as business expertise. You can't just be an extremely exceptional technologist understanding of industry to really say that you are an expert at any level. So if you really want to be there for the decade and beyond, then you have to have knowledge of technology, but you have to club it with contextual industry experiences as well. So you should know different industry KPIs, you should know what are the problems of the industry, what are the business values in every industry has. When you stitch these two skills together, that is where you will actually reach a level of expertise. And as I said, because AI has come in all these three streams, we have seen changes. So let's say if it's master data management that we used to do of old times, now it is also about ontologies because we have got unstructured data coming in. What we used to earlier do as data quality, now we have got semantics. So we are just adding, so that because the variety of data is coming in, more streams are getting added to this. But the progression always has to be technology plus business to really last for today, tomorrow, maybe couple of decades further as well. So Lakshmi is going to really cover a lot more about what we are doing in TCS these days on all these and many more topics. So with this, I would want to end my session. So Lakshmi, over to you.
Thank you, Savita. I want to just confirm that my voice is being heard clearly.
Yes, Lakshmi, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. So Savita started her talk with data explosion. And through the process, we also looked at the futuristic solutions when you combine data with the use of technology. How do you develop these cutting edge and futuristic solutions? So while technology is one of the key enablers for organizations to manage their data, companies are still facing challenges in the realm of data and data management. So let us briefly look at the challenges that CXOs are facing. So we can go to the slide depicting the challenges. When you have an abundance of data and you need to manage it well, data governance becomes an essential activity within any organization. Do organizations have a clear view into all their data across different systems? Some organizations have grown through acquisitions and others have grown organically, but have they focused on upgrading their data foundation? What have they done about modernizing their data estate? In today's age of GDPR, data privacy is front and center for all. Most specifically, the information security officers within all organizations are concerned about what data privacy means, and especially data privacy in relation to the explosion or the future explosion of AI in organizations. Do the various business functions within an organization have easy and quick access to the data that they need when they need it? Data democratization then is another element that CXOs have to focus on if they want to deliver superior and accelerated business outcomes. How knowledgeable are the employees about their own data reservoirs across functions, across units, and the enterprise? How does one measure data literacy within the company? We all know that not all data is relevant for decision making, but the data that is needed to make decisions, is it in a pristine condition? In other words, is your data meaningful? Now, assuming one has addressed all these points that I just spoke about briefly, how would you go about monetizing your data? And to do all of this, let's not forget the most important element, the need for skilled resources. So my session is going to focus on skills, but before I actually get to the portion of how do you skill and prepare yourself for what the future holds from a career standpoint, I want to talk about how are companies addressing all of these challenges. So fundamentally, the fulcrum for change is to begin with understanding your own organization's data maturity. So let's look at data maturity. Over the last several years, TCS itself has been helping its customers understand where they are in relation to their data maturity through the DataOM framework. Not only has TCS implemented this DataOM framework for itself, but we've also helped incorporate this DataOM framework into the Tata Business Excellence model that is used across all the Tata Group companies. Data has certainly captured the attention of our leaders and today has become a board level agenda. So let's look at what is DataOM. DataOM is really a framework that helps an organization understand what is its data and analytics maturity level and where are they on the data maturity curve. So if you look at the maturity assessment, it focuses on 4 key elements: people, process, technology, and data. For each of these elements, we evaluate the maturity levels through a very detailed questionnaire. The outcome of such an assessment is a score, indicating the maturity level on each of these parameters, which is what you see at the bottom of your screen, right? From a score of anywhere from 1 to 5. Of course, if you're on the left hand of the screen, it indicates that you're operating in a very siloed manner within your organization, that data is not shared, data is not used wisely, and you're not able to extract the maximum from your data. Now, along with doing all of this data, as part of the framework, we also benchmark our customers against their peers in the industry. And we provide them with a very detailed roadmap that lays out the interventions across each of these parameters. Now, this helps guide our customers on how to get to a higher data and analytics maturity level. I want to touch upon what we assess on the people parameter because, as I said, my focus is primarily on the skills that are needed for growth and transformation. So on the people component, what we evaluate on in our customers is we look at the composition of skills within the organization across each function. We evaluate the competency levels across these skills. How is knowledge managed and retained? That's another aspect of our evaluation. Finally, we look at what is the level of data literacy. So now let's go to the slide on what is data literacy. Sudeshna, if you can move the slide, please. Thank you. So one can look at it through the lens of the 4 W and H. Why is the data needed? Where is the data? Who owns the data within an organization? And how good is the data? And lastly, of course, if you are dealing with data, what's in it for me? Now, all the employees have to interface with data. Data is our day job, and we need data to make decisions. Do we know where the data resides? How can we access this data? How easy it is for us to lay our hands on the data when we need it, and the speed with which we need it. Do we have the necessary skills to extract the data, to understand it, and to create meaning out of it? So let's look at the next slide. And can we draw meaningful insights out of this data and represent it in such a fashion that makes it impactful? To do all of this, one needs the right levels of competencies to accomplish the work. Therefore, a career roadmap for those who are keen on working in the data analytics space becomes important. If we can move to the next slide, when you see this slide, it is a very simple representation of the critical skills that are required for an organization to manage its data as well as its data assets. You see 3 main skills. At the very top, you see the data engineering piece. Then in the middle of the slide, you see the data engineering aspects, the data operations piece, and then at the bottom, you look at the analytics and AI which Savita focused on. We have also mapped on this slide how each competency level aligns with each of the roles and the progression of the roles. Of course, higher competency levels aligns with more senior roles. So you can see we have listed some scoring or evaluation mechanism, right? You can see the E0, the E1, the E2, and the E3. This is nothing but the competency levels for each of those roles. So, for example, if you look at the data analyst role at the E0, if you move to a senior data analyst role, it means you have developed higher competency level. So from data analyst, your career path could be to become a data steward, which means you move up the competency chain again. And eventually, if you are very, very proficient in this space and bring in not just a solid domain understanding, but also a significant amount of data literacy, your career path could be that of a data officer in the future. Now, this is how we view the world from the data lens perspective. Now, let's go to the next slide. You will see a different view what you saw on the previous map, but this just shows you what a career progression could look like. Now, this can take you to leadership roles within an organization or in any data analytics function within an organization. So specialization in the three streams that I talked about on the earlier slide can clearly offer one many opportunities for career growth. Now that you have a roadmap, how are you going to get there? So let's move to the next slide. Leaders will acknowledge that there is a dearth of easily available talent in the data analytics world. There's just no doubt about that. How do we address the skill gap that we are seeing not only within the organization, but also in the market? What is TCS doing for itself here? And how is TCS contributing towards training and skill development in the market? These will be my concluding slides. So just like there is an abundance of data within organizations, there is an abundance of learning opportunities within TCS. Our trainings bring about a balance between classroom sessions, digital modules, and self-paced learnings. We have training content that is customized and developed internally to address any and all skill gaps. We also make available a lot of curated content through various providers in the market. You can see some of the providers listed here, like say, for example, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy. We have our own internal platform called TCS Ion. Again, what you saw represented a few slides back. What is this whole E0, E1, E2? What does it really mean? So there is a method to the madness in terms of how we actually measure competency levels within our organization. On the next slide, besides learning and development and tracking competency at an enterprise level, we also have to address the fact that since we are talking about women in data, there is a lot of opportunities for graduates in the data analytics space, because that is going to be the hot career, if it is not already a hot one in the market today. So specifically in the data analytics unit, we are running specific training programs to address the skill gap. Some of our flagship programs in the data analytics space include, for example, when you join TCS as a fresher and join the data analytics team, we have specially crafted programs to onboard you and prepare you for your role in TCS in the data space. You remember I spoke about Daton? We also have Daton trainings. Why? Because we want to make sure our own associates are far more data literate, especially those associates who are interfacing with customers or touching customer data. Then data literacy takes on an even more important flavor. Our ANI Evangelist program, by the way, ANI stands for Analytics and Insights Evangelist program. This is all about how data is helping our customers deliver superior business outcomes. We have run many programs to upskill the project management teams as well, because in TCS, the project management teams touch a lot of enterprise data, a lot of process data, a lot of finance data. So we need to make sure that they move away from managing things on spreadsheets to a more intelligent way of managing your data, as well as projecting your data for leadership consumption. So all of our employee trainings are captured in our learning and development system. We call it iEvolve. We target at least 12 learning days per associate each year. That's our target, that's a minimum. And role progression within TCS is tied to your learning score. Of course, there are a lot of other factors that goes to your role progression as well. But the learning score is something that we are tracking for every single employee in TCS. We call it the T factor. So the T factor is how unit heads are also evaluated in terms of how their unit is performing from a learning and development perspective. So I just want to share some numbers with you from 2019 that are simply astounding. So in 2019, TCSers have logged 4.7 million learning days, and close to 700,000 certifications were acquired by our employees. Over 3.3 million new competencies were acquired across the globe, across TCS, and the data and analytics unit alone has more than 400 courses running across 15 digital categories. In addition to all of this, we hold numerous hackathons throughout the year. This year alone, we have already had 5 global hackathons across 21 different technologies, with more than 5,000 data and analytics associates participating and more than 150 winners in this competition. So some of the topics of our hackathon were people at Tata, how do you solve the HR challenges for the Tata Group companies? So if you look at from the utility standpoint, what would be the right resources for renewable power if you're looking at solar? For, let's say, our Tata India Hotels Group, what would be ways in which you could look at productivity enhancement of their employee staff, and so on and so forth. Now, yesterday, I actually had an interesting conversation with the Smart City initiative that's being driven in Pune. I had the fortune of speaking with Anita Kale, and she was talking about how even government is really looking at how to monetize its data. Now, here, monetize its data means what? It means you want to really use your data to probably craft better policies, to change the way in which you interface with the community, etc. So she was talking about how she had, the RTO, which is the Regional Transport Organization, had accumulated 17 years worth of data on vehicles, right? Now, can you imagine the richness of the data that they were sitting on? So they decided to do small hackathons just so that they could help students. They actually went to colleges and roped in student volunteers who were interested in getting into the data analytics space. They launched this hackathon. They were able to really analyze 17 years worth of vehicle data, analyzing trends like what is the adoption of EV vehicles, what are the types of vehicles that are being purchased, what is the mileage, etc. So it's just interesting how even governments and cities are really looking at how can they use volunteer force from the student community or people who may be interested in data analytics to really get some quick analysis done for themselves. Now, I also want to speak about what are we doing, in the market as well. So far I've spoken about what is TCS doing for itself. So if we can go to the next slide. We also engage in the market through our academia interface collaborations. Here you will see that we are collaborating with not just the academia, but what is also very important for TCS as an organization is the employability of students who come from disadvantaged communities across India. So not only are we working with academia to help create more skilled talent in the market that we ourselves can hire from, but we also help students from the underprivileged communities as well. So on the next slide, you will get a glimpse of what we are doing with some of the curriculum that we're putting across. So we have crafted this Masters in Science in Big Data Analytics program, and we're driving this in multiple colleges. You can see the colleges that are listed here. The results are very, very promising. So similarly, we have designed the BTech in Computer Sciences and Business Systems with ISI Kolkata, with the help of other leading academicians as well. So you can see that in the Big Data Analytics program, we have 470 students enrolled. This program was actually launched in 2016, and 170 students have actually completed their internships at TCS. And it goes without saying, we've hired quite a few of them into TCS. So similarly, if you look at the BTech program, there are 30 colleges that we are interfacing with. There are more than 1,600 students who have signed up for this program. And our target over the next 2 years is to grow this to 80 colleges and rope in around 4,800 students who would be taking up these programs. So in conclusion, data literacy in organizations can only be driven if we have the right talent for the right role. With the data explosion in organizations, coupled with the constantly changing technology, organizations are focusing on gaining a competitive advantage in the market through the intelligent use of data. There is no dearth of roles in the market today in the data analytics space. For these highly specialized skills, and TCS as a company is certainly leading from the front. Thank you very much. I would like to hand it over to Dimple at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. It was indeed a very nice session. I have a question here, and this is from Rajeshri. She wants to know how to join in data analytics scientist domain.
Okay. I'm not sure if Rajeshri is a student or if she's already a working professional, but if you're a working professional, you can certainly explore opportunities within your own organization. I can tell you for a fact that there is a significant dearth of talent for us. The market is certainly exploding because a lot of customers are recognizing that there is value in looking at how they are managing their own data. And you can't do that with technology alone. Yes, maybe one day, as Savita spoke, if AI becomes a guru, you'll get good data. You don't have to worry about people to fix the data issues in an organization. But one way to look at it is to explore opportunities within your own organization. You recall the three skill streams that we talked about, which is on the data side, on the data operations side, and then on the analytics side. It depends on what you're keen on. If you have a very analytical mindset, you could probably get into the visualization space and slowly work your way upwards. There are many ways in which you can approach your career aspirations. I would certainly say reach out to, if you can connect to other professionals in data analytics. They may be able to help you understand how did they get into this field and how did they progress, what kind of mentoring and coaching they had, how did they invest in themselves, right? Investing in yourself as well is equally important. So as I said, there are a lot of courses out there through Udemy and any other portal. You can slowly start getting your feet wet and see how you can work your way into a data and analytics role. But I would say it's possible. As long as you have the drive and you have the perseverance to achieve your goal, you can do it. So all the best to you, Raj.
Thank you. I hope that was a nice answer. So there's one more from Shailja Lakshmi. It's to you, and she says, I am a TCS associate. This question is to you, Lakshmi. When it comes to data analytics, there are huge number of courses. It is overwhelming or confusing sometimes. Can we have someone to guide so that we can take scientific learning path? I'm sorry, specific learning path.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. It's no joke. So there's not just a data explosion, there is a content explosion as well when it comes to data and analytics. So yes, it can be quite overwhelming and confusing, but if you are clear on what role you're aspiring for, say whether it's in the visualization space or the data science space, or you want to become a data analyst space, there are a lot of us within TCS who can help you. Just look us up in Ultimatics and drop us an email. We can guide you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. We'll take one more question, which is, can you please let us know more about datom training, which is being provided? Now, this is from Ananta Narayanan, and I think most of us want to know more about datom. It's a buzzword nowadays.
Okay. Assuming this is a TCSer asking the question, because I'm certainly not going to be training anybody outside TCS on datom.
Yes.
We are using
Yes.
datom to help our customers understand what's the data maturity. Of course, we have our IP behind datom as well. Now, datom training is primarily designated for those individuals who are touching data on a daily basis and who are interfacing with the customer and who need to advise the customer on what steps they need to take to come up the maturity curve. So you must forgive me, I didn't mean to imply that datom training is available for everybody. It is for people who are in designated roles within the data and analytics organization. But we did launch the datom program and opened it to associates outside of the analytics and insights unit, just for the purposes of putting them in a position to have better quality conversations with the customers when they are interfacing with the customers. So it is a little bit of a restricted audience within TCS. And if you are in a role that requires you to understand the data maturity and be in an advisory capacity for your customers, then yes, you should avail yourself of the datom training. You can drop one of us an email and we will get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. There's one private question that has come to me. It says, Savita, could you please elaborate more on AI and their opportunities?
Okay. So see, I really struggle to, put in the concepts in 20 minutes on AI. AI is not something you can answer in a question, definitely. But opportunities wise, amazing, right? So see, now if you see most of our customers, if you are a TCSer who's asking this question, then I can tell you that it's definitely there. You are all going to get into one of the journeys in some time if you are on data side. Only thing is, everybody is apprehensive. Is it worth the investment? Do I really get what? Is there enough data to train my AI? So there are so many questions, right? So they all start at POCs, pilots, small programs. That's how the customers are also tentative in how they want. And there are definitely other customers who have jumped and who are always front runners in their industry, and they have already adopted AI and gone way ahead also. So depending on what projects you are in and what IS you are, you're surely going to hit the AI journey shortly. Be equipped, and I would say, as I said, it's all internet of skills. So please be equipped, be ready for the future. It's already there, right? So that's what I would say.
That was great. Thank you, Savita. So I'm sure everyone is inspired, enlightened with amazing talk by Savita and Lakshmi. Thank you, Savita and Lakshmi. I will pass it on to Sudeshna.
Thank you, Dimple. There are more questions, but at the interest of time, I think we cannot address any more questions right now. And especially on the last one, Savita, I'm very sure everybody will have, lot of requests on elaborating more on your AI journey and the role progression, and we should definitely have more sessions. And first of all, thanks Savita and Lakshmi for the amazing session and the AI journey and the role progression and what we are doing in data maturity, data literacy, and how we are our activities around filling up the skill gaps. Everything was great, and it's really difficult to finish everything in 20 minutes. And thanks everybody for joining. We will definitely get back to you with the answers, and we will again have more interactions on women in data with all of you, again with a wider audience and with more speakers, and of course coming back with Savita and Lakshmi again. in the near future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Savita, Lakshmi, and Sheila for such wonderful session. Thank you, Sideshna, and we'll close the session now. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Good morning, especially Sheila. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.